Okay, all right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming on this snowy night to the town of Beekman's Planning Board meeting this Thursday, January 16th. If you'll all stand, please, and take note of the exits. To your left, behind you, down the hallways, another, and one behind us here. And if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you'll remain standing just for a moment of silence for our service personnel, past and present.
And the poor souls in L.A.
Thank you.
John, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. First item on the agenda, public hearing, Duchess Contracting Corporation, Bischoff Lane and Route 55.
Good evening.
Evening, Brian.
Just here to make my presence known.
Oh, you're good. Right.
We don't want to repeat what happened last time, so.
Thank you. Okay. So, can I have a motion? It's been adjourned. It's, do we need to open, council?
No, there's no need. He's here obviously for continuity.
Right.
And to, I guess the applicant did not get their timely make a submission. They're waiting on some DOT, right?
DOT, right?
Yeah.
Waiting on DOT generally?
DOT, and we're trying to make sure we have something further than just talks with Dutchess County Wastewater Authority before we come back and try to make sure when the town and the public has a chance to look at this again, that it's robustly addresses all their concerns.
Sounds good.
So they're making a good faith effort to move this along, but relying on third parties that are not within their own control is always difficult. It's a moving target.
Yes, sir.
So just like to make a motion to adjourn to the February meeting or March. What do you think you're going to need?
February.
February 20th, 2025? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing to February 20th meeting, 2025.
So move.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous vote. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for your consideration on that.
Thank you. Okay, next item under discussion, Sparrow's Nest. Evening.
Good evening. So I believe we're just talking about some of the changes that were made out in the field after we completed construction. And I believe, and just Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, it's really focused about like the dumpster relocation.
Yeah.
So we had it approved to have the dumpster enclosure, actually.
I have to just say, it looks beautiful, the layout. I mean, I'm really...
Yeah, it came out great.
It did. Came out nice. Yeah. I really like the benches and that rock monument you have in the center of the circle there.
And that was like a happy accident because we had no idea how much rock was in that site. And after blasting, we had some big chunks left over. We're like, all right, great, makes for good landscaping.
Sure.
So, but yeah, we were originally approved to have the dumpster located right here where the roll-up door is. Within a few days, they found like once the dumpster started getting filled, they were getting like infiltrated with bugs and everything. So they moved it to the opposite side. It's now located over here with the turnaround, at the end of the turnaround. So they left them over there. And then they tried to be in compliance. They went with a different dumpster enclosure. So right now it does not have a gate on it. It's approximately 10 feet deep, 19 feet wide. It's 6 feet high. It's a black chain link fence, but it does have the black privacy slats in it.
Right.
So in my conversations with Dan, I was suggesting that maybe we put another layer on there just for the privacy. And then I had a meeting with Krista earlier this week, and I said, all right, you gotta put gates on that, so that nobody can see these dumpsters.
Would you like to comment, Dan?
Yeah, no, I just, for me, when there's a change like that, there are certain things we can maybe change in the field that we can agree to, but this is something that tends to be a visual and something that the planning board scrutinizes, so I just wanted to continue to treat this basically as a field change, but we thought it would be appropriate to really get the planning board's blessing on it because it's a bit of a change, so, we wanted to just kind of memorialize it, make sure that everybody's satisfied with it. So really, it's the location, right now it's the materials also, so there's no concrete pad underneath it and stuff like that. So they're gonna improve it by bringing in a little concrete pad, putting on the gate. But, you guys should discuss the materials, location, and just if you're okay with it, then so am I. But I just wanted to, make sure that this board had some say in that because it was a change from the approved site plan.
Yeah. Did anybody see it? Jason, did you?
No, I just saw the plans.
Pete, you saw it, right?
Yeah, Dan, I have no problem with it. Basically, it's out of sight, because when you drive in, your tendency is to go to, as John and I did, your tendency is to go to the right, to the front of the building. It certainly is a large enough size. It's not small like most dumpster areas are, okay? I think if you put up a gate, if you so desire, that's fine. Personally, I don't think you need to put more slats in there to hide it.
Okay.
It's set back off, far enough off the road, that goes up to the ball fields, and there is some, there's some, trees or something there that, break it up, between where it is and the road. Actually, it looks good.
Yeah, did you see it, Nicole?
No, but I'll just
Yeah.
defer to Pete's.
Yeah,
very
I have to
comprehensive
agree with
assessment.
him, because I saw it with him, and the slats aren't necessary. As far as the
Aren't necessary or are necessary?
are not necessary, because they're black on a bias going through the chain link,
Yeah,
and it seems to do its job.
okay.
The container's a green container.
Yeah,
anyway, I think.
I mean, if, the problem I've seen on those, if you put gates, right, you're gonna get pitching and hinge movement and stuff like that over a short period of time, unless you set them in concrete. But I'm almost, okay just with some evergreens, some little evergreens that
Okay.
might serve the purpose and do away with the gate. Just an idea that I
It
had.
would only be in the front of it though, there's asphalt in the front.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
What?
maybe on the side?
There's asphalt in the front though, where the gates would go, and
Okay,
so there really is an opportunity to screen that necessarily.
We could landscape, like from a visual standpoint, like when you're coming into the site, like on the inside of the circle right here.
Right.
So it appears, we're blocking like from the entrance when you're going into like the main parking lot, so you don't see the dumpster enclosure. But then to John's point, then we wouldn't need a gate because we're blocking, the dumpster.
Right, there's a little island or something there, right?
Correct, yep.
what do you want to do?
Full of rock, though?
I mean, what does,
And excuse me.
Sure.
I agree with John. I don't think it needs gates.
Okay.
I mean,
Isn't there a reason for gates if the
Animals, I'm
enclosure's tight,
thinking.
yeah, for the animals?
animals like raccoons or.
We did see there was some trash that was pulled into
Yeah.
the woods. Probably a bear, but.
Yeah, that's like I've seen better dumpsters too, for, that kind of situation where they,
Yeah.
top feeders without the lids.
They're pretty crafty than bear.
Yeah, they are. What do you guys want to do?
So my concern only with the gates is just like when that company's coming by to empty them, is that if somebody forgets to open those gates, or if they come, you know, if it's like a morning tomorrow we're gonna have a bunch of snow on the ground, you know, and they come hauling in and like slam into them, they're just gonna get used and abused, and it's just gonna get to the point where we're like, all right, screw it, just take the gates off.
Right.
So if we leave them off, if there are no gates, that's no longer a concern, but I can certainly address it with, you know, with the members of Sparrow's Nest and say, all right, maybe have dumpsters that have got like the lids on the top of them.
Yeah, the top
Well,
views.
how about leaving the gates off, and then if there is a problem, then address the problem?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my problem also, you get illegal dumpers too, you know, that come in and
True.
throw stuff in there. So we put big gates around with
Okay.
snow fencing.
And it might help if we start to landscape this so that, you know, they can't see it from the street, so they won't get any illegal dumping.
I don't know, so what is it? I'll leave it up to you fellows to weigh in.
I liked your idea of the landscaping and where you were suggesting it
Okay.
as a buffer, and to me, that achieves the buffering. As far as the need for gates, I just defer to the owner. Well, I don't think we need to opine on it.
Okay.
Have we provided enough direction, Dan?
I think so, yeah. As long as,
Okay, great.
Steve, you're happy with that?
That all works for us?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the site. It looks great.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Those trees it looks like they've taken and probably start to bloom next year.
Yeah, and they got plans to add some more, and
Okay.
especially now. But, yeah, it was a little rough going, like when we were under construction, and some of those trees,
I know,
you
I
know, didn't
noticed.
survive. Only because it's a construction site, but,
Looked like we lost some big ones.
yeah, and, I mean, thankfully, we didn't have to clear a lot, but what we're putting back, yeah, they want to keep landscaping, they want to get it back to more like a natural setting over there.
Understood.
That's nice.
Yeah. But the design is really, I like it a lot, the building.
Thank you.
Looks really good. Thank you. Yeah.
So then, once those are set up, you know, obviously, the other thing is just gonna be make sure we do some reseeding come
Okay.
spring and get those unvegetated areas with some grass, and then we should be able to close out construction.
Okay, all right, all sounds good.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
Good night. Next on the agenda is Clove Meadows subdivision. Oh, and if any of the board has an opportunity, Pete and I took a ride and looked at the solar panels there. I think we did a great job, considering the view shed is, I think, fantastic. You really can't see it from the road or even the neighbor's property. You have to look,
Right here,
not by the prison, I'm talking about by Condon, it's lumber. Dytron, yeah, the one we spent a year working on.
Yeah, that's
That
what
one,
it meant.
yeah.
We did it.
But, yeah. Good evening.
Hello, how you doing?
How are you? I forgot your name.
Matt.
You're Matt.
All right. So, plans have been developed decent amount further. The septic system's all designed. It's been submitted to the health department. Addressed a lot of the comments from Dan's letter. Really just kind of got further along in the development.
You understood all of his comments?
Most of them. There's a few I'd like to talk about.
I had such a hard time when I tried to figure them out.
Where's the existing house? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, we were out there the other day, and you have stakes there. What is so there's a number, and then what are the letters under it? What do those
So-
represent, the stakes?
So
I know, I
Bob-
saw the test holes, and then
Yeah.
it said lot 1, and then there were some letters under it. I was just curious.
So
Yeah,
that's
there was, sorry?
SDS.
Yeah, sewage disposal system.
Sewage disposal
Oh, yeah?
system, yeah.
Okay.
Was what?
Yeah,
Sewage disposal system.
septic system. And I think those stakes might have been from a previous layout before the current
Okay.
iteration.
Okay.
It's gonna be private septic, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Each
All
lot.
individual septic and wells.
look at that, it's right there if I look at it.
Yeah, yeah, they're your plans. Okay.
So, yeah, there are, I mean, there's a few, you guys have some questions?
Can you,
Okay, so
you know what I'm curious about? Have you learned anything about the new wetland laws?
Yes.
And how this impacts your site? Because you're the first one. Do you know, Dan, or you want to talk about it?
I went to a DEC, well, were you in the DEC webinar the other day? I guess it was yesterday. It feels like a year ago already.
Oh, wow, no, I wasn't.
No?
They had an informational webinar yesterday, and there's
They have one on the.
a lot of things that
22nd
impact
too,
us
right?
here. You know,
Yeah.
part of Beekman is within the, what they call the Poughkeepsie-Newburgh urban area, which means a lot of our wetlands are now gonna be state wetlands because they're, wetlands of unusual importance. And, it doesn't matter what size they are or anything like that, so, basically, everybody that's gonna come before us is gonna have to do what's called a project jurisdictional determination, where they contact the DEC with the tax ID number and address and some other things. They do a GIS type of review,
Like a desk?
a desktop type of review. They're gonna say if there's wetlands there or not. And then it's gonna be up to the, either, you can use regional staff or you can use your own wetland professional to go ahead and delineate those wetlands. And then you have to submit it in for jurisdictional determination, project specific, so,
It's for water courses also, right? Or just
whatever they're gonna wanna claim.
Whatever is water, yeah.
Could be water, could just be wetland, could be anything, but,
Right.
it's a process and it's gonna be very interesting to see how it all really goes down.
And when you say the size doesn't matter, it literally doesn't, right? You can-
No, could be a 10 by 10 area.
10 by
really.
10 area, yeah.
And
That's-
that's because
Yeah.
it's considered in the urban area, right?
Yeah, part of Beekman
If it's
is in the
outside of
urban
that
area. Some of it is, like, I think this site is outside of it.
Right.
According to the, so they haven't put that layer out on the GIS yet, but we've been using, I think it's on the environmental resource mapper. They have a layer which is the designated MS4 area, which was based on census data as well. And that's what
That's
I
kind of what I
believe is
figured.
gonna be the Poughkeepsie-Newburgh urban
So
area.
is this outside of that?
I think yours is outside of it,
My
yeah.
understanding, if it was outside of the urban area, was the laws would pretty much stay the same unless there was a vernal pool or something of significant importance.
Yeah, well,
on the site.
there's a few other things. There's, if you have wetlands within one of the Huck 12, designated areas where there's floodplain. So that's gonna kick in wetlands now for state. There's a whole slew of things in there. It's a lot.
Also,
But,
where there were class
and-
action lawsuits against it.
I would assume there's gonna be some, but, and I think that, you know, you have a wetland, validation block. You had the DEC come out and do a wetland validation towards the end of last year, so.
Yeah.
I was trying to understand from that webinar if that meant that you're good, because it says on there, you know, validation good for 5 years, and don't know. And it seemed to me that they basically said if you didn't have secra, or if you didn't have a site plan approval, or some other advanced level in your planning process, that you might have to go to them still. So I don't know, it's very hard to understand right now, and I think we're all gonna be struggling with it, so.
Yeah. So moving forward,
But you've met all of the setbacks and avoided, right?
yes, the only question would be, I believe the town has a setback of 75 feet for this wetland, whereas if it's DEC, it would be 100 feet.
I thought they changed that.
True.
So that would change.
Yeah, that could.
I have a question about the driveway, the line of sight, on lot number 13. Yep. That's gonna be right towards the curve of the road.
It's a long driveway, too. Yeah.
Well,
But you can't do anything about that,
It's a little over 500 feet.
I don't think.
Yeah, you've measured that, right? I think you had mentioned that in some of your correspondence before.
Yeah, I mean, 500 feet's like pretty much right at the house, so.
Oh, no, you're talking about the line of sight along Hines Road, the sight distance.
Line of sight going on to Hines Road.
Yeah.
That's what my concern
I
is.
thought you did some intersection sight distance measurements.
Yeah, I was looking more up here, but I'll take a closer look at the
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, maybe it should be shifted.
Move it further.
Yeah, closer to whatever the adjacent lot is.
Okay.
I mean, just a suggestion, but I know that there's a curve there.
So where would you, are you suggesting, Pete?
Well, I'm suggesting move the driveway entrance at the road closer to the adjacent lot.
So this one sort of up here.
Right. I think the thing to do is to go out and just look at it
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
in relation to the line of sight in relation to the road, the curve.
Yep. And should I have the highway super come out when I do that?
It is
That's
town
something
road, so. it-
Yeah, he's gonna want.
One of the requirements of preliminary is getting a conceptual approval from the town highway super anyway. So it doesn't hurt for you to start those conversations with them. During the lead agency circulation process, this went to his office as well, but, it's better off if you contact him and maybe do a site visit, him or his foreman or whatever.
Okay.
So do we have to worry about the buffer, 100-foot buffer, or not?
Because the only way to know is if you do that project, the property jurisdictional determination, that desktop submittal, there's a website link now to do it.
Did you have DEC delineate the wetland, or you did it with a private consultant?
DEC, they came to the site.
Yeah, so it should be easy for them to determine if they've already done work out there.
Well, now, if I remember correctly, what approvals, we gave him sketch, right?
Yeah.
Now.
Yep.
So I mentioned when you were here last, that getting a resolution in place before January 1st of 2025 would insulate you from the new requirements. But that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, if we would have had to have gotten to a point where they had the
Yeah.
public hearing open and closed and a secret determination, so
Yeah. Yeah.
timing wasn't on their side on
No,
that.
it
So
wasn't.
what do we got? Have we
So-
done a secret on this?
No, we have not.
No, because we haven't had we still need to.
So that idea of getting a jurisdictional assessment is determine if there's a wetland.
Any kind of wet.
And if it will be subject to DEC's regulations. But there's no question as to whether there's a wetland, because there is.
Yeah.
'Cause they've
There
already
is
done that.
there is the state wetland delineated in the one corner,
Yeah.
That's right.
and then they did not, at the time when they did the wetland validation on this, they did not take the upstream wetlands that contribute to it. So the wetlands that go through the property, there's a little channel, and then there's the pond, and then another channel, I believe. They did not take those as part of their state wetlands at that time. Now, that was only, what, 4 months ago?
Yeah, it wasn't.
3
very
months
long
ago, 4 months ago? I mean, it's,
It could be 4 months, it could be 5 years.
I don't know
What
if-
matters is whether or not DEC comes in later and says, how come you didn't come to us for that jurisdictional? And then you would have been subject.
Right.
If they find at that time that we would have been subject to their laws, then we're in violation of them.
And that's where these lawsuits may come into play. As I attended a seminar, and a law firm from New Paltz was there, and they represent applicants for seeker review and that sort of thing. Pretty complex. And that is exactly the issue. So that we're not getting caught, so that you're not getting caught because of, say, us allowing you to head in a direction that may violate the new law as of January 1st.
My suggestion would be to contact the person that signed the wetland validation and start with them and see, we have a wetland validation that was done within the last few months. Do we need to go through this process? And if you can get something from them in writing that you don't, then we've got what we've got now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might say, no, you're subject to all the new laws and legislation, and we're gonna, you should go through the process of submitting through online and doing the desktop study and
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
it's
it will
not
get-
wonderful for anybody who's got an active application right now. But
No, yeah, that's the problem. And, because they will get circulated, right? Oh, I guess. Yeah, all right.
Okay,
What else,
let's
Dan?
beat this to death.
I think they've done a great job in, continuing to advance the plans. And we did have the planning department do circulation for lead agency. And there was no objection from the two agencies that responded. Department of Planning, Department of Behavioral and Community Health, both responded, neither objected. And so the planning board, if you want to do anything, you can declare yourself lead agency. It's a type 1 action. So it's a lead agency for a coordinated review of a type 1 action.
Just another question. Howard, can you explain how you're handling stormwater?
Yeah, we've developed a SWIP, so it's a lot more detailed than the grading plans. But
What are the
there's-
stormwater practices?
Sorry?
What are the stormwater practices?
Each lot has a bioretention area on it, so we're collecting runoff from the homes and driveways for the most part. There's a couple ponds to deal with peak flow rates as well, so it's pretty robust.
So can you point to some of the bioretention?
It's
Those are those dark,
funky shaped ones
I see.
for dance requests.
Maybe like rain gardens type things?
No, that's way better than a rectangle.
A little more naturalistic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So as you develop the plans, we'll get more details on those?
There's a lot of detail already.
Yeah.
Some of them are right on property lines, though, right on the edge of the property line.
Yeah, that's the low point.
Oh, so you went right to the lowest, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm trying to find the spot where you can collect the most.
Okay.
Anything else?
So a motion to
Declare lead?
declare us as lead agency and a type 1 secret action.
Would anyone like to second that?
I'll second it.
All right, I'll call a vote. Any comments from anyone else? Jason?
Nope.
No. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Maybe we can talk later. I'm just trying to figure out all the details to get the public hearing. Is that something we can talk about now, or?
Yeah, if you have some questions, we can go through them.
Basically, I'm just wondering, how far I need to go on this to get there. I understand the water course and wetland service permit. I think that was one of the big ones.
Yeah, it is, and so our code requires that a public hearing is had for our water resource permit. And what that generally does is, if we have a public hearing on the subdivision, we like to run them concurrent with water resource permit so that you don't have to have two separate public hearings, two separate, mailings, legal ads, all that. And it just kind of makes sense in terms of that, because once we close the public hearing on the subdivision, we've got a limited amount of time to make a secret determination and grant preliminary approval. So really, what the board's been asking for is really having everything satisfied up through 130-20 for the most part, before they'll go into public hearing phase.
Okay, so that's pretty much the letter.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you don't have a whole lot left in 130-20 that you didn't address. I mean, we have, number 25 has 5 items,
Yeah.
6 items.
It's primarily that one, and then.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, any of the other stuff that's early, should be knocked out, the sketch and conceptual comments.
Going
and-
as much as possible.
Yeah.
Just specifically to get the public hearing, what is it?
Yeah, there's unfortunately, and I don't think, it's not the way that you guys have been presenting your project specifically, but there's been a number of times when it gets to public hearing and then the brakes get halted and then it just drags and drags and drags. So they've, kind of made this somewhat of a procedure, if you will, that we want to really have most of the information set in 130-20 so that we can have a public hearing, and if it's a light public hearing, we can close it and then move towards seeker and a decision on preliminary
Yeah.
very near the closing of the public hearing.
Right, okay. All right, that's great, thank you. Thanks to the board.
Good luck. Look forward to hearing how your conversation went with the state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
They're gonna have to just face it, that this is another thing, like, you may as well just do it.
Just
do it.
Do it?
Yeah,
They're
I
gonna-
agree.
If you get out in front of it, it doesn't have to.
and get it done. Because, those bench evaluations are gonna take place from a computer using geolocation.
Yeah, that's
And then I
exactly.
think if they decide that it is a wetland, it would, or not, there's a very long time where that ruling remains in effect, like a year or two. I forgot the number, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, no, I don't know the number, but yeah,
Yep.
that's true.
Okay. Next on the agenda, Baker Estates subdivision. We went there too. Any thoughts on, we talk conservation here, is that really the necessary? It is over there, it's good, it is. Oh, that whole, okay. Good evening.
Good evening. Bill Povall, engineer for the applicant. We're back tonight after being at a prior meeting where we received sketch plan approval. We've further developed the plans by providing a detailed response to each of the comments, and as well as the discussions that were held at the last planning board meeting. Specifically, we developed a detailed SWIP report and design. That's all been completed and submitted for review. And Secondly, based on discussions with the planning board at the last meeting, we provided a conservation easement along the back of the property as requested. The other large item that we addressed was based on discussions regarding trees. I did go back and discuss that with the applicant, and what they agreed with the board that that would be something that would be of concern with the grading. And what we did was we proposed 33 trees along the shared driveway along the shared driveway to lots 5 and 6. And that's where a lot of the disturbances were in order to get that driveway to lot 6. Right. And lot 6 is the existing parcel that only has an easement for access, and that's the lot we're looking to bring into compliance. So we feel we felt that, you know, providing trees for the to mitigate the disturbed areas was significant, and we proposed the additional trees. And then, you know, we went through and updated and revised a lot of the comments that were basically minor in nature.
So what is the conservation easement line? What,
Can you see the screen or no?
I can, yeah, I see it on
See
mine.
the shaded area towards the back? That's all been shown to be in a conservation easement.
So my question was going to be, what dictated or what influenced the extent of the conservation easement?
The goal with that was to be off the wetland buffer line, as well as I tried to follow the contours. So the conservation easement that was chosen was the steeper slopes, while also providing some area for backyard and to build the septic systems. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I noticed on one of Dan's comments that he suggested that we'd be at least 100 feet off the stream, and there's a couple areas where we're just under that, and that's something that we're more than happy to do. But again, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
So would you say it's primarily protection of the stream, but then secondarily protection of steep slopes?
Correct.
May God be coming from the earth.
So do you, just looking at it here, it doesn't capture all the 25% to 32%
No.
slopes,
No.
but it makes an attempt to capture a lot of it.
Yeah, as you can see, we've been, the third smaller lot up in this area. So we've encompassed that entire lot in the conservation area. And we brought that all the way to the septic system for lot 1, which is over in here. And here's the conservation line.
So if there's no building going to happen in that first lot, why wouldn't you just connect it to the, and maybe we've already had this discussion, so I apologize, but why are we having a vacant lot?
We're not. Right now the lot is proposed to be attached or included as lot 1.
Okay, it is.
So there will no longer be a lot by itself. And then
it'll be.
And then we've
protected.
added the conservation easement to it, so that particular land will be restricted
All right.
from any future development.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is so that we avoid creating separate lots,
Right,
but are completely
Understood.
restrictive of building.
Yep.
So that always causes a problem.
right, and that was a request of this board, and we agree, and we've made that change.
Bill, do you happen to have the area of the conservation easement in comparison to the overall area of all the parent parcels?
I don't at this time.
That's okay, I bet you have it on there, I just didn't, just kind of wondering about
I
what
actually
percentage,
may-
let's say
may
it
have
was.
I may have it on one of these drawings.
So how many trees is he putting back?
I don't see the,
33. Right, Bill, 33 proposed trees?
Correct.
is there a tree plan? Or,
It's on the, I think it
It's
might
on
be
the grading plan, and you could,
Yeah, the
I've
grading.
added it to this color drawing.
That's the detail.
You see all these dots?
So that's basically your mitigation effort because of the removal of trees that's going to occur in that area.
Right, and that's where the steep slopes are as well.
The what?
That's where we're disturbing the steep slopes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, and I think one of the other comments I made from the last meeting, and maybe we're not at that stage yet, but I want Dan to make sure this happens or check on it, is that you do erosion control measures, you know, like erosion control blankets and stuff?
Yep, we've prepared a erosion control plan, which was submitted, and that's also part of our SWIP.
Yeah, I see.
where's the street?
And what's shown in light green on there is the extent of clearing that's required,
Right.
and that's the absolute minimum clearing required to be able to get those houses and septic
Correct.
fields in.
And we're clearing a lot in the front because of our stormwater management system that we're proposing. And then what we'll do is we'll set up stormwater easements in the front of those lots because the stormwater basins will go across lots in the front. And we were able to work this out to keep the stormwater management areas to the front closer to Baker Road, and what that does is it allows for good access for maintenance. If we started putting the stormwater management areas in the back, that would have led to further disturbance, and it would have been a little bit more challenging to get access. So the goal was to provide good access, because as we know, these all need to be maintained. And what I like about it too is it's more visible from the road, which I think that helps it be maintained better.
So what exactly is the practice that you're putting up front?
We have grass swales along the driveway, because there is a ridge kind of where the houses are, so I'm able to get the drainage to flow towards the front there. So we use grass swales to 4 bays for pre-treatment, and then from there we have one big infiltration basin.
Oh, all right, so is that gonna have to be covered in an easement?
Yeah,
Oh, you said stormwater.
that'll be included in a stormwater easement, correct?
And will there need to be a homeowners association or something that they share responsibility?
This is, as the MS4 regulations have gotten more difficult on the towns, you know, we found that the HOAs aren't as effective in maintaining and reporting to us, because we actually have to now get reporting data on, I believe it's every pond that's been built since 2001. And maintenance is low, let's say, on a lot of those. And even just understanding, they're finding people that knew that they were supposed to be maintaining them, even though there's easements or whatever else, it's a tough thing. So, you know, we've pivoted a little bit towards drainage districts. I don't love it for a lot like this because it's not a new road. But we're gonna have to, that's gonna be a detail that's gonna have to be hammered out on who's gonna maintain it and, you know, the mechanisms to make sure that we get all that information as maintenance is achieved.
Yeah, I'm not against any of the multitude of options that are out there, as long as there's some measure whereby each one of those homeowners is responsible for contributing and making sure that
Right.
stormwater, and that it's not the town.
Right, and that's what a drainage district would do. The town would administer the district, but there's a special tax, it's a special, it's a special district where each one of those lots has an additional tax. And it's initially based on, proposed costs or, estimated costs in the first place. But then, as time goes on, you get a better feel for how much you're actually putting into it, and that can be adjusted. But the number doesn't cost the town in that perspective. And you can even incorporate some of the oversight of the district, personnel time that it takes to run the district into the costs as well. So it will take some additional time on behalf of the town personnel, but it will not cost the town more as they're reimbursed for it.
Can you describe how the steep slopes law has impacted this? And how he mitigated steep slope concerns, that sort of thing here?
Yeah, so I think, you're still getting the trees surveyed for lot 6, correct?
Correct.
Right, so.
Yeah, we actually just received them,
Oh, good.
so they'll be on the next plan.
So I think that had to be taken into consideration when you go through 155-53, which I attached to the review letter, so you can understand it, that subsection, was it F, I believe?
Yeah.
That really goes through a slew of things, and so I think that they've done a really good job in doing what they can. This is a very difficult site.
And we did
They-
provide a pretty detailed response,
Very detailed response.
outlining
in
the
co- in the-
reasons for it.
Yeah, because the only disturbance of the very higher, the higher slopes was on lot 6, and lot 6 is something that they're fixing here to the extent that it was a landlocked piece, and, had they not brought that piece into this application, they might not have had the rigorous stormwater regulations that they're dealing with as well. So what they're doing is overall a good thing in a multitude of ways. But if you go through those standards in 155-53F, then you're gonna find that they've really done a good job in limiting, especially when you consider how much of the site is steep slope. They're citing septics and houses and most of the driveways in areas that are not steep slopes, which is great. Stormwater was very intelligently laid out. Makes a lot of sense, the way they use the driveways and the topography, and to bring that back towards the road to get it into the stormwater. It was very, very good design.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate all the effort you're making here to accommodate our concerns. Clearly, the development of this site was very conscious of limiting impacts to steep slopes and woodlands. What my concern is the future, after these houses are sold.
Understood.
That people don't, which is why I asked for you to show the conservation easement.
Yep.
So now, I'm happy with most everything you've done, except I'm just wondering if that conservation easement couldn't be more expansive to protect the areas, to protect more of the steep slopes, and, for the future.
Yep, and again, I will be expanding it to ensure that there's 100 feet, or at least most of it's 100 feet to the wetland, the stream. And then I can look at other areas where I can do that as well.
Yeah, and I would recommend looking at the areas that are steep slopes,
Yep,
I get that you're primarily considering the stream corner, and that's great. And I just think you may want to look at, go to that next step, like 15 to 25 or 25 and greater, seeing if you can capture.
yep. I can most certainly look at making it more expansive, more in the center and on lot 6, for sure.
Terrific, thank you.
No, it's very detailed.
So you fell in that urban area we were just
Understood.
talking about, so,
Yep, so we'll.
Regardless, you know,
We'll
I-
reach out to them and
yeah.
get that ball rolling.
On that, have you been on their environmental resource mapper now with this?
I haven't yet, no.
They kept the old state wetlands there, but then they also showed what they think might be wetlands, which I'm thinking is gonna lead towards that desktop study. So you kind of can mix in between the different layers and find where that urban area is, which right now, we're just assuming that the MS4 area that they show is urban area. I think you're gonna be okay. I didn't see anything, but we better just kind of go through that process. You're over 100 foot to anything except for maybe that one little storm discharge on lot 6.
Right.
That you could probably pull uphill anyway.
I did,
So-
I can, yep.
So, I mean, I think you'll be fine, but just to kind of solidify the record, I think it would make sense for you to do that
Okay.
jurisdictional determination process. I think you'll be okay.
Are you suggesting that the actual standards of the regulations, like, once they've determined that there's a wetland, then it's that 100-foot standard hasn't changed, how they're gonna ask you to treat it really hasn't changed?
There are some other things that changed. I mean, they were, really more protective of the vernal pools, for example. Like they originally suggested 500-foot buffer to vernal pools, and then they said that they got a lot of comments that it should really be 1,000. And I think that must have come from a lot of lobbyists, but, so then they basically ended up coming to the conclusion that buffers from vernal pools will be on a case-by-case basis, so we don't know. But, we don't run into vernal pools an awful lot. But it goes to show you, though, if the DEC starts taking some of these smaller wetlands, there's more of a possibility of that happening.
Yeah, it sounds like their reach is gonna be more expansive
Yeah.
than it was before.
Yeah, it definitely affects, the Dutchess County area, Orange County and south, for sure.
If they have to do a field inspection, it could really delay the project significantly.
Well, that's why I think what they did was they said either regional staff can go out there and delineate it for you, or you can have your own person delineate it.
Your own biologist?
And then you have to survey it and then send it to them, so.
Then it has to be verified by them.
They still have to go out and verify it, but, I don't know, that might speed up the process a little bit. They're gonna be taxed. I mean, they said that they hired 3 people, I think, to help.
I understand the real problem is gonna be.
Maybe it's 5.
If there's
They bought a used Pontiac or something.
If there's a conflict between the determination and the applicant from the desk survey, you can appeal it, but it'll take months for them to get an agent out to the field to actually look at and survey the area that is in question.
That may be the case, but it's almost similar to like when you do the jurisdictional determination with the Army Corps.
Right.
Or actually not really a JD through the Army Corps. When you submitted an application to the Army Corps and they had a certain amount of time to approve it, if they didn't get back to you, it was an inherent approval.
Right.
What DEC is gonna do is something similar. I think it was 90 days. If you submit your mapping in and they don't respond within 90 days, you then have to send them a certified letter saying they didn't respond, and then they have like 10 more days to respond. But then if they don't. I learned a lot in a day, but I'm still,
It's a lot of ambiguity.
there's a lot going on.
Ultimately, with this particular project, it's on the side of a hill.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen any low areas that would be of concern.
Right, I don't think you're gonna,
And again,
there's a couple areas where
we're
the
quite
town drainage
any
comes.
disturbance is quite a distance from that stream in that low area, so even if there was something along the stream and there was a 100-foot buffer, we wouldn't be impacting that.
So how do we move forward? What's our next step here?
Yeah.
So We also had the planning department do a circulation for lead agency, just to get this project back. New applicant, new engineer, but also incorporating the 2 other properties into it. So we received responses from Department of Planning and Department of Behavioral and Community Health. Neither of them objected to the planning board acting as lead agency. So it would be an opportunity to declare yourselves lead agency for coordinated review of the unlisted action. And that would be one thing you could do. And then the other thing I had mentioned in here is setting a subdivision public hearing.
Okay.
Is a possibility that you could consider.
Can I have a motion to declare lead agency for a coordinated review of this unlisted action?
So moved?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that was unanimous. Are you prepared to set a date for
Yep.
the subdivision hearing?
And Dan, they're gonna have everything answered by that time?
Yeah, again, a lot of this is just, I mean, a lot of it is just housekeeping, but they've addressed the majority of the 130-20. I know that Bill just mentioned that they already have the survey in for the trees, so that's gonna knock one of those off right off the bat.
Just so
So-
we don't get caught.
Yeah, no, I feel that this one's definitely ready to go.
That's great. All right. What month? Next month?
Sure.
Or February?
Yep.
Which would be the 20th, okay?
Feb 20 meeting.
February 20th. Motion?
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for February 20th.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Jason Nevin, 1012, is second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Have a good night.
Enjoy your vacation.
Yeah, enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda, Fernia Court, contractor storage, please. Good evening.
My name is Thomas Brickner. I work as an owner's representative for
Move
Osorio.
the
Yeah.
mic so you talk
that-
into it.
Is that better?
Thank you.
Much.
All right. My name is Thomas Brickner. I'm here on behalf of Osorio Tree Service, owner's representative. I'm here before you tonight to ask for an extension or some time on our special use permit that has expired.
Dan, would you like to fill us in?
Just the town code on a special use permit requires that they start construction within 1 year and complete it within 2. 2-year mark was November of last year, so the special use permit lapsed. This was once reapproved prior, so it's now gone through 2 different iterations. The construction only started maybe like a year and a half ago or so. So they had met the 1 year to start construction on the second reapproval or second approval that was done on this, but they didn't finish it within the 2.
I'm confused though, like, is it being sold or is it being developed?
Here's the deal. The issuance of the permit, both and the extension of that permit, were to the prior owner. We took possession of the property, we received the building permit, and within a week of grabbing that permit, we started work.
Okay.
All right, we ran into some issues with the plan itself, okay? To be quite honest with you, it doesn't conform to our needs. So at this time, we have a possible prospective buyer that will be coming before you. And the backup plan for that is to come back before you and seek some changes on that plan to see if we could go up top and put a building up there that suits our needs.
Repeat that?
Okay. We have 2 options at this time. One, we have a prospective buyer that's interested in the property, a serious buyer, that will be coming before you to see if he can make some changes to that plan, actually an amendment. He would follow the current plan However, he needs to apply to see if his needs for that property can be met and approved. Okay? The other option is, from Osorio's end, we would come in before you to seek a change to that plan and seek approvals to put a building up on top that will work for us.
Further up,
Correct.
not where the current pad is.
Correct. It's, in simple language, it's just too small for our operation.
So what is it that you're here? Everything is expired at this point?
Correct. That's
And-
why I'm here to ask for more time.
Yeah, so from our perspective, we're going to, possibly, what kicked this off was I recognized that the 2 years had lapsed. And so I reached out to them, but then also reached out to the planning board to say, now would be a time to either rescind that approval and then establish some dates and times for them to restore the site back to natural conditions, removing any of the construction entrances, making sure it's all vegetated, and then they walk away or whatever. We have a bond if they didn't do that, so we can establish some timelines. If they don't get that, then we pull the bond, we pay somebody to do it, and then they don't get the bond back, of course. When they heard that, that's when they said, okay, we need to figure out what our options are. So what they're asking, excuse me if I'm wrong, but is an extension of us, it's basically us not establishing those deadlines right now at this meeting, so they can continue to explore the two options that they have, and then they'll have to come back to us.
So not extended?
Right, I mean, the
I mean,
other
it's
option,
expired to
the other
just-
option would have been, they can still do this, I would think, is, we'll follow the exact plan, and then they can humbly ask you for your reapproval again.
But my understanding is whichever buyer it is, that there's gonna be an alteration.
They would have to come back to the planning
In
board.
the plans, yeah.
Yeah, site plan, special use permit, like,
Special use permit
So since
does
we,
not transfer to the subsequent owner.
right.
I'm sorry, Craig?
It does not run with the land, so.
Right.
so since what you're looking for us to do is get our blessing that if you want to keep the lot the way it is, that we will do so, and then give you reapproval even though it's expired,
Correct.
which is that scenario. And the second one is you'll come back before us in the event that you're not interested in that design, and we'll go through the process again.
Yeah, and we will be doing that in a timely fashion. This will not be drug out.
And if the new buyer would come in, he's gonna have to come back to the planning board regardless, because he needs to, even if he kept the plan exactly the same, he still has to come back here, because the special use permit doesn't run with the land.
Right.
So he'd have to come back here, reestablish that special use permit with you. In theory, nothing is substantively changed out there, and the board could basically reapprove what was already approved before for that prospective buyer. If that prospective buyer has changes, though, he's gonna have to come in and redo the whole process.
So basically, all we're doing is we're not gonna hit the hammer on the table at this point. We're gonna give them a chance to determine what to do, and then the hammer will fall one way or the other.
What's the
That's-
timeline before?
We don't have to say hammer.
Oh, I know what it is.
It's a gavel.
It's an
We
exercise of
could
discretion.
say feather, right? We'll see how the feather
What's the
falls,
timeline,
right?
You got it.
what's the timeline that's being
Yeah.
proposed?
Well, so what I had asked them at the time was, give us a timeline for when you're gonna do all this restoration, understanding that we can't really start growing grass until, late March, early April, but, giving them that chance to give us that timeline. So whether we establish that in the January meeting or the February meeting, it doesn't really matter to me in terms of that, because you're not gonna be able to establish grass between now and then anyway. But it's really up to you guys to,
What's the timeline on you knowing what a potential buyer is gonna do?
A maximum of 6 months.
6 months to know what the buyer's gonna do?
Oh, no,
Or-
good evening, everybody. My name is Marvin Osorio. So the two options falls that the original building design that we have, and I just wanted to apologize to everybody. This is my first time involved in a project like this, and I live in the area, and I was misled to it. But, the bottom line is I bought the property, I'm assuming full responsibility for it. So the two changes will be Mr. Tom from Alpine Industries, he's our interested buyer, and he's okay executing what we already have approved, but he would need an additional special use permit to grind his mulch in the back, which is gonna involve about a 4-acre section, and he also agrees to keeping a buffer, like a good buffer between the houses and the back, planting trees, so everything goes up, put everything into a hole and minimize the noise. And Plan B will be, if he doesn't move forward, the building in the front doesn't work for us. So, and I'm not looking to park outside, but we would require the building at least 150 by 100, so I can park all my equipment inside and don't be creating attention.
What is your business?
I own Osorio Tree Service, so we do
Tree
tree,
service.
and then we don't do commercial work, we only do residential, so we just need a place where to park our equipment inside,
Grinding.
It's like the net lots,
Storage,
you're
right?
spread
I think,
all over the place.
Pete?
Huh?
I think Jason just wanted to ask him a
No,
question
I was
about
just, I
grinding.
was just thinking out loud here. I mean, the whole purpose of the property was storage. And then the idea of grinding and noise and all that and everything would be counter to what the whole intention originally was. It was supposed to be
So-
storage.
Plan A, which is the prospective buyer, and he needs an area where to grind mulch. And then they only grind mulch from beginning of, mid-March, like to the end of June, and then the operation stops for the year. So, and noise is minimized to 5 hours a day. So that will be compliant to neighbors, right? And, so we really won't be bothering anybody. Our closest neighbors is Joe Sala next door, which, he got his own, operation going on. But if we were allowed to change the plans and I was able to put the building in the back for myself, I don't need to do any wood grinding, I just need a shop to store my equipment. So that's then that will be the whole purpose to the
I
property.
understand that with your nearby neighbors, and I don't want to drag it out or anything, but you have a residential neighborhood at the top.
That is correct.
So sound down the street, yeah, you're solid, but that's a residential area above that.
That is correct, but it's a pretty far distance, it's the whole lot is 10 acres. So the 4 acres that he'd be looking will be tucked to the left where there's no neighbors, and it'll be dug out into the hill where he'll burn them all the way out to, for sound barriers. And the new machine they have, it barely, it doesn't, it's not like you're crushing rock, you're just grinding mulch. So, it'll be a very soft noise.
At the end of the day, they have to come back before you, and they have to
That's
prove
why I wanted to just ask
all
the
of that
question.
to you.
All right.
So you will have all of that ability to ask for noise studies, traffic studies, whatever you need to make your decisions on that property, so.
But making mulch is not
It's-
gonna be just 3 months out of the year. Making mulch is going to be 12 months out of the year.
It could be, but it also, you have the ability in a special use permit to, enact special conditions on the special use permit. So if they say they're gonna do that, then you can also enact that, and then, the building inspector can enforce that in the future if necessary. But again, they have to come back to you and show us that
Yeah, it's just
plan and
preliminary.
prove a lot to you in order to get to that point. So what I've suggested to the prospective buyer was to give a very detailed narrative to the building inspector for a determination of the use, make sure it's allowable in this district first and foremost, And then if it is, then what, if it's specially permitted or prohibited, assuming either of the first two, they're gonna have to come back to you with a site plan and/or special permit application, and you have seeker and everything to go through.
But remember hot ash firewood, and
Yep.
it's gonna be something like that where you're gonna have traffic, truck traffic, et cetera. Personally, I think it'd be better to put your storage building in.
And I don't disagree with
realize
that.
maybe you wanna flip it, with a prospective buyer, but, I think you'd stand a much better chance with, pushing stuff back up the hill and, creating an equipment storage area. What is with the equipment, what are you doing now up on Clap Hill? It used to be Thu's property.
Correct. So we got about 17 pieces of equipment between crane trucks. So we have millions of dollars in assets exposed to the weather. So I really need a building to store all my equipment inside. That was the whole goal that I wanted to go there for. And, that really seeks to protect my investment, and I don't have to have it exposed so everybody drives by and stares at all the equipment.
Are you gonna be
Okay,
using
if I
the same
can-
grinder that you're using on Clap Hill in this area?
We don't grind.
No.
We don't
don't.
grind,
The prospective buyer.
grinds.
Okay, the
What
perspective.
what they had up on Clap Hill was.
Was, for bedding, right?
Firewood processing at one point. I don't know whether you still do it.
Wasn't
or
there horse bedding?
We only store logs there, and then when we accumulate a big pile of logs, we hire Alpine to come in and they take care of the grinding for us, and then they hold the mulch at it.
And they use that for horse bedding?
No, they use for residential mulch.
But you're getting, so what I'm getting at is, aren't you running into complaints on the Clap Hill location?
No. The only complaints we had was that we were under the impression that we can burn like the junk pieces.
okay.
And then we had encountered with the chief of the fire department, and he asked me to stop, and we terminated immediately, and that,
All right, if I could speak on
One
you.
last question. So the hours of operation what are they for that location?
For Clap Hill, it's 6:30 in the morning, we leave to go to work, and then we back around 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
And the Alpine, that company that does the grinding?
Oh, their hours are more smaller than
More
us,
restricted?
because they start at 8 a.m. and then they stop at 3 p.m. So
And they don't grind on the weekend, is that correct?
No, they grind 5 days a week if they have the volume to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't, I'm not mistaken, you run 5 hours a day, that's what he runs, because
Right.
that's what he does at the property in Platte Hill when he comes and grinds the
That'll
mulch.
show up during the public hearing anyway. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, seeing,
Well, he wants to ask his
Maybe I
question.
should go to the bathroom.
I know, we've been walking on him for a minute, so.
Excuse me, Pete.
go ahead, no.
So first of all, when you buy a property, you're buying what goes with that. There was an approved permit for that property. So you're buying that approved permit with all the conditions that go with it. I'm guessing you understand that. What you're asking tonight is for us to defer our decision, because we've been, now it's come to our decision to act, now that and you're asking us to defer our decision. I'm inclined to say yes, just to give them a little more time, and we can discuss, or we hope that we're giving you that time so that you come back next time with a very detailed discussion on what you want to do.
And one last thing is, as Dan, mentioned that, that if we don't restore the property, we don't want, we have a bond. I live here in the town of Beekman. I'm looking to continue to do business in the town of Beekman for the next 32 years. So all the work, we have about $100,000 in work that we already spent to put the entrance. The only last thing to be done is to pave it up to DOT standards, which is 10 inches thick. And regardless of which route the property will go, whether we will put the building in the back and that will be approved, or the prospective buyer will get the approval.
Okay.
That's where the road will come in, so to kind of take that out and turn it to the original condition.
So I suspect that the prospective buyer is gonna come up next time to us, and he's wondering how we feel about what his needs are going to be, his modifications.
That is correct.
So, be that as it may, I would say, we can hold off 1 month to listen and wait, to hear what their prospective buyer would like to ask us, and to present to us whatever changes he wants to do, and we can reserve our judgment until then.
Yeah. Does that give you enough time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, that's more than generous, you know. And one last and final thing was, I know this is being a little bit of a headache for the whole board, and I'm very appreciative of your decision tonight, but I kind of inherited this a year and a half ago, and it was my mistake from not doing the due diligence that I have to do, like my prospective buyer is doing, right? So that was my mistake, and I'm naive to this, you know. I'm an immigrant from Guatemala who came here and then built a business, you know, and I'm trying to do the right thing. That's all I want, and if it's whichever route we'll go, we would like to execute it, finish it, so everybody's happy and see that we be able to deliver for you guys.
I completely appreciate your transparency. You've been very honest, and you're not holding back any information, and we're not going to use it against you. But we are going to make sure, which I'm sure you can appreciate, that when all is said and done, there isn't any disturbance to the people around the project.
Yes,
I've got one question.
yes.
Concerning, okay, rumor has it, okay, that, the house that Shane Fernie had built on Pleasant Ridge Road on, shall we say 49 acres or whatever?
That is for 44 acres.
44 acres.
44 acres, yes.
I've heard rumor that in some way you're connected with that, is that?
No, not, so I was leasing the property for him because we had a whole plan of do a tree farm up there and plant
Okay.
trees so we can grow our own trees. You know, due to my business, I do landscaping, I plant trees, so, but after, you know, we were storing wood chips is there as well, but it came to our attention that people were complaining, so I went back, I terminated the lease. It's a gate across right now, so it ain't no more wood chips right over there, so that's kind of hit a dead end, and we will not be moving forward with that.
So it wouldn't also, it would not be possibly a place for your equipment storage?
So we have Cunningham, the 2 roads there, and Briar Drive. So that's a heavy, you know, neighborhood there. So everybody had a problem with us leaving at 6:30 in the morning, and that won't be right for them. At least in 55, we're not bothering anybody. We're just gonna go right onto the main road and pull up versus crossing the whole entire neighborhood over there. As a neighbor in Cunningham or Briar, I wouldn't be happy with a tree company going with big trucks every morning at 6:30 a.m., you know, so. I am very conscious. Like I said, I'm a neighbor too, and I don't want that to be done to me, and I don't want to do that to others.
Well, of course, in 5 years, all your trucks are no longer gonna be diesel, they're gonna be electric, right?
Oh, yes, that might be a possibility.
Okay.
Thank you for the way you've handled this. It's very much appreciated.
Yeah, I
If
don't
I
see
can-
any reason why not to, give them the time that they need. It's, whatever we're doing is administrative.
Right.
And I agree, but just one last discussion on our options. You were mentioning that if we wanted to close out the permit, well, we would vote to, and then we would call the bond in, and then the bond would be not to build the building and develop the site, it would be to restore the site back to its original condition.
Correct.
So the applicant would have the opportunity to restore it
Correct.
first.
Right.
Yeah, what the concept is to say, you know, to establish a timeline that we could be happy with. And if they don't perform in that time, there's a set time when the town board can vote to pull that bond, do the work to restore it back to natural conditions in as much as possible, and then that would close it out on our end.
I see. I just wanted to know what our options
Yeah.
are.
One question, like if it ends up, like, let's say for giggles, it's gonna take a really long time to come back to you and get those approvals, right, to move my building to the back. The only work we've done is just the entrance, right? And I know we wanna bring it back to original, like, natural habitat condition. But will it be, because either way, we're gonna come, we can move the building to the back, that's already the proposed road coming in, so for the building pad, we haven't done anything. So that's literally virgin ground right there, so the only material we have is just the road access. So, you know, we would like to see if you can consider about now, you know, bringing it back to a natural condition, because whichever route we will go, we wanna finish the project.
So what you're saying is, no matter which way it flows, you want to keep the road where it is,
Correct.
the road entrance.
Yes.
So if it goes that you have to make the correction, or excuse me,
Adjustment, yeah.
bring it back to,
Natural conditions.
natural conditions, you still would like to leave the road there because that would be part of what you would
My
want to
building
do to
entrance,
bring.
yes, for
equipment
my
in the back.
storage in the back, or my equipment storage in the back.
Makes sense.
So where the building is approved right now, nothing has changed there, that's just natural ground with grass right now. We just have about a foot of material where the main road and the DOT entrance was approved.
I think you might be mischaracterizing that, what the pre-construction condition before was just a slope down to the road. There was a lot of excavation that occurred there, and it leveled off. And I don't know, if you're saying, I don't think we're saying restore to natural condition, we're saying you would be required to restore to pre-construction condition, whatever that was before. Am I right, or am I wrong? I don't know.
That's a good point, good question. It's a lot to do that, obviously, because I don't know what happened to all that material that was taken out of there.
And I'm not saying,
It's a good
I don't want you
question.
to misinterpret me either. I'm not saying we're gonna make you go to that extent. I'm just saying that's the way the law is. It's based on people starting work, creating a mess in the town, and then walking away. And that's why the law is structured that way, so that it gives the town the opportunity to restore it back to what it was in the event that somebody walks away, or they leave it for a mess for a long time. And that's,
Most of the cut, Rob, was on the upslope, not the downslope near the road. There has been cut to make the pad, but essentially, the slope between the road and the cut for the pad has not been disturbed, and it's an indication of what the overall slope is on the particular parcel.
I think we've taken this as far as we need to right now. We'll see what happens, rather than try to predict.
And we
Okay?
appreciate that.
but we need a resolution to extend
Do we?
the permit till the next meeting? or-
No, I mean, it would be, the actions that this board could take, if they wanted a reapproval, you guys could have considered that. If you wanted to tell them to restore it in a certain amount of time, or else we're gonna restore it, then you could have done that as well. But
Right
there's
now-
no extension at this point because it's really lapsed.
It's
We
already
can just
expired.
let it ride,
We're
right?
just letting it
Yeah,
ride.
so it's,
Yeah.
technically it's lapsed right now, and we can let it ride, but at some point, we need to be able to, establish those timeframes and restore it if there's no action.
Right.
And then use the
But
bond or
this man's
whatever else.
indicating that there's gonna be action,
Right.
one way or the other.
Yeah.
All right.
I said just let it ride.
Just come back to our next meeting with your new, as you had suggested.
We have a month to bring both options to the table, and whichever, regardless, we want to execute the project. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough time because, I had just, I didn't even knew that the permit was going to expire because I misinterpreted that the permit came with the property, and didn't have an expiration date. Now I know. Now, moving forward, I know what's going on.
Okay.
You know, and we won't let it be a mess moving forward to the future, so
That's fine.
we appreciate it. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.
You too. Have a good night. Okay. All right, the last item on the agenda, pre-application for Eva Farms. Hi, Brian.
Forever.
Did I say that?
Forever.
Forever?
I believe it's a stylistic version of forever,
Is it?
forever.
Forever. Very nice. I like the head shake. That was
there's a
good.
lot of flair in that head shake.
Yep. I'm still not
That's the
saying
only
it.
way I could get that pronunciation out is if I add a little something to it
I
to
don't
make
think I'm gonna do
get
it.
into it. Good evening again.
Where are we?
We are on the northeastern side of Sylvan Lake. Right here. This is the Hilltop Manor Co-op.
So here's the lake.
Right in that area. This is the existing parcel is outlined in pink. These two areas in the center are seasonal bungalow communities, and they're on their own separate tax map parcel. They're totally separate lots.
Where's the road?
Sylvan Lake Road.
Okay, thank you.
And the applicant is seeking to build a home site out of this lot and subdivide off the green area, which is what serves the existing bungalow community. Septics are towards the front, a well with a water storage up top, the existing access up to there. And they just, my understanding is that as a kid, they had some experience here, and nostalgia's a powerful force, and they'd like to keep it forever green instead of seeing it developed. I believe that's hence the name. So this is just like a flag portion to meet zoning bulk breaks, but they would seek access. We thought we were gonna get access from here, but my understanding, this subdivision up here is not complete yet, and the town has not accepted or anything with that road.
That road is been
Contractor owned.
dedicated, I believe, but not accepted by the town. Yep.
Right,
What are you
so,
talking about? What's this?
Stone,
Which road is
Stone,
that, Dan?
is that Stone Court?
yes,
Stonecrest?
Stonecrest.
That's what it is, yeah.
I believe most of the houses are built
Yeah, they're-
there, I think. I think they're close, but I.
They're up there, yeah.
It's like a little city.
All right, so you would tie into, where's Stonecrest?
Stonecrest is
On top of each other.
this area right here.
How do they handle the sewage?
Is the cul-de-sac with a little extension, parcel extension on the end for future access to the rear. The applicant, I believe, would love to get access from that at the time. They probably built their house in about this location, but that's way in the future. They're just trying to get their ducks in a row. They don't want to build a personal residence on this lot and be married to all the infrastructure that's down there, so they're trying to separate it and provide enough room for any potential future utilities or any requirements for the existing community, and just build a private house up here in some place with its own well and septic, and that's it.
So Hilltop would take over the green area? The area that's cut out?
Or he would still own this. This is still contiguous. I'm not sure what his end game with that is, if it's to turn it over to Hilltop or just keep it, but he doesn't want to see anything developed there, so right now he's not doing anything with it.
Forgive me, but what is the purpose of the subdivision then?
He's trying to build a house here, and all the infrastructure that's in here serves these two Hilltop Manor Co-op.
So why are you showing the future house where it is on the other side of the
No,
subdivision?
that's a pump
Because
house.
that's what he
That's a
wants.
pump
Oh,
house.
pump house,
That's the
okay.
pump house.
All right.
That's existing.
Oh, okay,
He's just dividing the one lot into two lots.
right.
A non-realty subdivision, yes.
Hilltop.
How do they handle their water and sewer there?
Hilltop,
Sorry?
At the existing.
The bungalows, yeah.
They have septic, we believe the septic systems are slightly downhill from each of those lots, so it's on a separate tax map parcel, technically. The orange is its own separate tax map, and this is its own separate tax map.
Oh.
This was done like, my understanding, this was like in the 20s or 30s. This is a very old.
Right, and Hilltop is the community that's up the hill out of sight.
Yes.
Yep.
You just see like the green sign in the loop kind of going around the
Yeah.
sign, that's all you see.
There's
And-
the two pods of them.
I didn't realize there were two pods, but, yeah.
That's how well hidden it is.
Right?
That's how well hidden it is. You didn't even know there was two.
Well, I do know that the road up to Hilltop leaves a lot to be desired.
So what's your game
Right.
tonight?
It's
What
true.
what do you want to?
This is just a pre-app, introduce it to the board, get their thoughts on this. If we think there's any kind of administrative hurdles or any specific,
The guy owns it now, right?
I would have to verify if he owns it I believe he does own it,
So he's already bought.
or at least in contract. Again, I was prepped at the last minute for this application. Apologize.
No, it's all right.
Except where the bungalows are. The bungalows are.
Oh, no, he doesn't have anything
Right,
with
that's
that.
private. Oh, even, okay.
Well, a couple of issues that I would mention is, I mean, on the surface, it looks pretty low intensity. You're just doing a two-lot subdivision, you're just creating one house, one building lot. But that entire lot is wooded, as far as I could tell from the aerial.
Yes, as far as I know, it's
And
Slopey.
I don't know if there's any wetlands on it, if that area up top is wetland, but it's very steep and wooded. So similar to the one application we looked at earlier, just getting a road up there could do a lot of damage, because you're disrupting, you're gonna, inevitably, the way you're laying out the lot, you're climbing you're going straight up a hill.
He would not be seeking to build anything here. This is just to allow him to have frontage. As he would have ownership for this, they would establish either a deed restriction or easement or something for access.
So
So
he would be
he would
using,
utilize the hilltop.
he'd be using the existing road going?
Yes, and go all the way up,
Oh, all right,
and
okay.
come off of here, or,
That's right.
That would be better, yeah.
or at some point, if this becomes acceptable, the town becomes owner of that, he'd probably try to come off of that.
I don't know.
Off of that loop.
subdivision. Is that an approved subdivision?
Yeah, it was from around early to mid 2000s. It was Charlie Brown was the engineer for it. It's somewhere around like 16 lots or so, I think, if I remember right.
Was there a paper road that leads to this lot?
It's actually constructed, other than the fact that it doesn't have a top course.
It looks like it might, I can't see from my map, 18 or 20 lots.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Oh, yeah.
You could see the little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little road there.
Yeah, and
So does it show-
technically it's a private road right now until it's accepted by the town. But the engineer did reach out to me a couple of months ago about the possibility of the town accepting that road soon, so we're going to go through a punch list stage and then get the highway super out there and get to a point where this probably be, potentially a 2025 acceptance of the road by the town. And I don't know if it prevents you now without it being accepted, if that prevents, accessing.
No,
I
because
mean,
he'd still own both of those lots at this time, but to build your private residence on a lot where it's kind of married to all that other
Yeah, no,
stuff
so-
that's
so
nothing to
that-
do with you.
That's my point. I don't think that there's anything preventing potential driveway access to Stony Crest now necessarily, other than the fact that you'd have to, have that easement in place.
Well,
Well,
that alleviates
it's
my
all-
concern, that
It's
you want
already
to come
there
up
in the
that
plan.
side.
Yeah, the road's built.
Right, but I mean, the access to, the potential access to the adjacent lot is already approved if it's showing it here on the plat.
Yeah, what it was an extension for potential continuation of the road.
Right, right.
So
Understood.
that's right-of-way area that's brought all the way to the property line. So technically that, when the town accepts the road, we would be accepting that land area as well.
So why would you need the arm going all the way down to the left, down at the bottom?
To the frontage.
For bulk regs, for road frontage?
Road for the frontage?
Yeah. I mean, he's protecting 42 acres there.
Yeah.
From development, which to me is,
You'd be better
A
off
plus.
to come off that,
you know,
Stone
I mean,
Ridge, or whatever it
he
is.
bought it,
I think that would be his
area, and may
preference.
possibly build it.
But I think that would be the applicant's preference, but, you know, he's not looking to build a home right away. You know, there's some time out here. He's just looking to get the
No, that's understood, but I'm saying you'd be better off to have access to the property from that venue rather than trying to come in off
Absolutely.
of, Sylvan Lake Road, where you're going up into the, first development in Hilltop.
if this was my lot, that's how I would,
Because
Do it.
that's an extremely steep, what's there is an extremely steep road.
And his other two options now are going to follow the contours, which would be less disturbance if he were to come from the top there. So I don't see a downside to this for us, as far as the town is concerned, because you're preserving 42 acres with the possibility of building one house on the 42 acres.
right.
Yeah.
The,
I agree with you. I think the only issue is just working out how the road,
Yeah.
how the access to this lot is gonna work.
Yeah.
I'd wanna
Logistics,
see more details on that. Because that connection to Stonecrest is not through this lot. It's ending in Lot 1 still.
Yeah, but he owns Lot 1.
For now, if he sells Lot 1 tomorrow,
not going to.
this lot doesn't, oh, I've heard that a million times.
But that's why it's called for, how do you say?
We have to make sure that they have
For Eva.
access.
well, we would explore an easement or a deed restriction or some kind of
Forever.
instrument that would maintain access and perpetuate.
I'm not doing the head.
For that back lot.
I'm
Whether-
sure he's gonna hold on to 2 lots for the rest of, forever. But but it's still our job to make
Oh,
sure
absolutely.
there's access to this lot. Because I've been told that, I've been on the board 14 years, I've been told that several times.
Okay, no, that's no problem. We'll add, whether, like, if it's deed restrictions or if we need a specific easement.
It'd probably be a meets and bounds described easement.
Because
It's
we'd
probably
like
the
to
best
keep it
way-
kind
the
of
best way to
general.
do it.
Yeah.
Now, you gotta remember that parcel is littered with, rights to Hilltop co-ops. I remember looking at this parcel 20 years ago, and there's all sorts of easements on that lot right now that benefit the co-ops through the big parcel. So
Yes.
you just gotta make sure that those are all, that there's not something in there that would prevent you from putting a driveway across it or something like that. I mean, like the well house, presumably that's their water source for all the co-ops. You know, is there some sort of an easement there that says nothing else can be put on it or whatever, you know, whatever, so just, you know, that would be a consideration for you to look into. The deeds for it are out there, they're real old,
They're nostalgic.
they're hard to read. That's what I remember.
The deeds for these lots?
The deed for the big parcel.
Oh, interesting, yeah. I mean,
Because the big parcel, actually, I think there's beachfront on the opposite side of Sylvan Lake
Yes.
right there.
Yes.
So,
It's the beach
at one point, there was a contemplation of the town getting this parcel donated to them.
Who's the town?
there was a proposal to donate this parcel to the town at one point. Yeah, and it was, the proposal surrounded really like the beachfront part of it. But that didn't materialize, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Okay, that's fine, absolutely. We'll try to get,
But your best bet is to come off a stone, whatever it is.
we can try to, show both, because, again, there's no guarantee of the timing of the road versus the house. I believe the board's had some experiences in some roads that just take longer than anticipated. So,
Well, the main thing is that you do have access from that cul-de-sac on whatever the hell the project is, stone, whatever. Because that would be directly off a town road, whereas, and the access would be, trust me, would be much smoother than coming in on the existing driveway, if you will, existing road driveway that goes to Hilltop now.
Right. And if you tried to snake a driveway up that first 1,000 feet there, you're gonna have a couple switchbacks in the first part, and
no,
it's-
he's not at
it's
all
gonna
interested
be,
in any
like
kind
Rob
of.
said, that's gonna be tree and grading nightmare.
No, he's definitely not interested in that.
Yeah. Super expensive driveway.
And there's one already there. Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
But next time, show the driveway that goes up to that section of Hilltop, please.
It's there. Yeah,
Not
that's,
that, no,
that's to the
No.
pump house.
that's to the pump.
And then he's,
That-
yeah,
There's a couple, I think,
Yeah, there's.
older trails.
but that would be addressed at the time, well, when would that be addressed? So if we were to subdivide that, that would be between the building inspector and the applicant at that point, because it would just be one lot, right?
I'm not following you, sorry.
So if we subdivide this, then we're basically out of it, and the decision to access the house with a driveway is between you, Jess, and the applicant. We're not part of that. So-
Wouldn't you have to present access permanently shown in a drawing before you approve the subdivision to have access to the lot too?
Yeah, we would
Like
want to
Rob
have
was saying?
proof. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We
Yeah.
would want to have proof that's viable. I mean, we've talked about this before. We
Yeah.
can't create a lot that ends up being not viable.
That's
So
landlocked,
that's why we've
correct.
asked for all the details of the development on the lots to make sure that they are viable. Will there be, some differences from what you see on a subdivision plan to what's actually built? Of course, nobody builds that rectangular house that shows on every subdivision plan, but, so driveways might shift a little here and there. But generally, the idea is to make it buildable, and then if we showed an easement, let's say, through, that would get to Stonecrest, then obviously they're stuck within that easement area. They're gonna have to build the driveway in that area. If they tried to come off of Hilltop, the Hilltop access roads, let's say, then that's not what that, if we got to that point, that's not what easement they would have to serve that access to the new lot, let's say. Unless that's what they propose and we approve, and what the planning board decides to approve.
So they'd have to
So-
actually pick the location of the prospective
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, well,
Before we
generally, yeah.
subdivide? Yeah.
I didn't, like,
Generally,
that's
they-
why I mentioned, I didn't know if there's some kind of deed language that would just require lot one to maintain and allow access through their property to lot two. So if this 15 years, whatever it is, that this, they change this a little bit for whatever reason, I don't know, it's, grading's better or something. It doesn't have to change an easement, or they're not stuck to an easement as well. It's like, well, as long as we, don't block anything here, maybe they abandon or move the well house, as long as they maintain that access, it could be anywhere through that property, just as long as there's a dedicated or a unobstructed 12-foot wide or whatever it
Yeah,
may be. I don't know if there was
It
something.
gets messy, because, you're gonna have like some sort of a shared driveway and maintenance and easement agreement, and then there's gonna have to be assignments on who's paying for what, maintenance of, and to me, it'd be really messy to try to use the hilltop.
No, it is. I'm just trying to think of how we can get through
Because of all the easements.
the subdivision, and if something happens here before, that's great, that's perfect.
I think we want to
I
be
could
more,
show an easement, I could show a dedicated easement.
yeah.
I'll work it out, we'll work it
I
out.
think we
Just-
want it to be more deliberately thought out as
Okay.
opposed to being more open-ended. Because on past applications, we've had people come to the applicant and say, well, I have my drainage pipe over here, and it had a very loose easement language, and we sat meeting after meeting after meeting discussing, trying to fix the problem. So we'd rather have something more like an easement, and demonstrating to us that a road can be built there, even if it doesn't get built now.
So at this point, he's proposing the green line, right?
how far do you go then?
Yes,
Why not take the green line and
Sewage.
drop it down below the well house?
Driveway.
this,
That's a good question.
Yep.
well, he's
So Brian,
trying to just kind of follow,
Because the well goes with those units down at the bottom.
I understand, well, it's all part of the lot.
so guys,
But-
why
Would
wouldn't we?
it not maybe be easier to give a right-of-way on the well line than it would on a road in easement?
So, why would we ask them to just do that when there are a lot of other things to consider?
Because
Like
because
stormwater and
Because
septic
he can
and.
get it, because he can get in easier from the adjacent lot,
Uh-huh.
rather than coming up off of,
Right. And the contours go that way,
Right.
so the contours actually would make it easier from the top down.
So, I think part of
But
the
I think you don't own that, so.
I think part of the rationale is what he's trying to do is to minimize some of the unknowns with the utilities, those easements, those deeds, and say we're encompass everything that's there. And it gives them the most flexibility in the future.
I
But I
understand
think they
that.
should satisfy their concerns with access, right? Pick the best way to access the new lot, right? And they should sketch out the other items that would go along with a building,
That's fine.
and then we would look at it then. Areas of disturbance, where septic would go in the backup field, stormwater, that kind of thing. Nothing, extravagant, but I think it needs to be contemplated and laid out so that it eliminates future concerns.
Okay.
Yeah, just, the only question for me is, as you get into something like this, we have other parts of the code too, we got the steep slopes legislation and all that, so, doing your slopes analysis on this to try to understand where a house site might be, doing some, concept of understanding of if you can or can't get a septic system up there, I don't know if it's super rocky up there or not, all that'll eventually end up being, but you're saying this might not happen for a long time, or?
Well, I mean,
So-
he's not looking to start building in 6 months. There's no house plan, there's no moving date, there's nothing like that.
But 10 years, 5 years, 1 year?
As far as I know,
like,
before that time frame, that's
Yeah.
way out there, no.
because, something like this, with all that driveway, you're probably gonna be over the acre, you're probably gonna need to do at least a basic SWIP, and then if there's steep slopes, we have to make sure that we're following the standards of the steep slopes and making sure that we're, incorporating some strict erosion sediment control practices in there to make sure that the steep slopes don't give while during construction and all that, so there's a lot going on with a lot like this, despite the fact that you're doing de minimis, development on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly how I started, which is, on the surface, it looks very simple, but there's a
Right.
lot of steep slopes, a lot of woodlands.
Yeah.
How are you gonna fit a driveway in, and it's gonna kick you over those thresholds, like you just mentioned, where you're gonna need to think about stormwater, steep slope protection, that kind of
If
stuff.
not, it'll make a nice conservation easement.
But
You know, I mean,
basically,
I think, yeah, it'll
it's
show
showing there,
commitment.
You could avoid the steep slopes.
In 10 years, I'll be in a nursing home, so I'd have to do this in 5 years.
I don't think it's too onerous on us to say, you're creating a lot, show us how you're getting there.
Yeah.
No,
It's
that's
literally-
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
All right.
disagreeing with you at all.
Okay, no, so you're good.
Sounds good.
Everything's good. Yeah, that's all, otherwise, it's great. It's just not that much impact, it's just 2 lots. So,
Yeah, good
and I
one.
understand why you're doing it the way you're doing it.
Good discussion.
And I believe part of also the sizing was by keeping this a larger lot, both of them kind of a large lot, as a non-realty subdivision, you can avoid having to go through the Board of Health in terms of, you know, getting up there, ripping up and putting in tons of deeps and all these other, with those size lots, they can waive those and say, well, as long as you meet,
Yeah,
you know, it's a big enough lot, you can figure it out, and we'll still show something.
right.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll
one
show
of the-
feasibility, but-
one of our code requirements for subdivision is some sort of proof of how you're gonna deal with the septic, so I mean,
Yes.
you know, you're gonna be going through the process of putting together a SWIP and whatever else, you know, it needs to be a viable site at that point, so.
It's gonna be I think they already looked around, I think Brian, the other Brian from my office looked around, and so it would be a fill pad, some infiltrators to try to minimize the scale of the septic. Because you get a 25%, at least this year, you
Yeah.
get a 25% reduction for use of the
And this way, they'll be one
Infiltrators.
step closer to their forever homeland,
forever.
forever.
You're not gonna forget the name, I can,
That's true.
I am not
it's stuck in your
shaking,
head forever,
not shaking my head, though.
forever. You gotta have the
Oh,
little,
look, you made me do it.
you see, it just comes, it rolls off the tongue a little easier for some reason, I don't know.
Very good. Are we good?
I'm good.
All right.
All right.
Anyone like to, motion to adjourn
So moved.
this meeting? Can I have a second?
Yeah.
Can I have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.